All right, now you can start with your introduction, Nicole.
Okay, great. Okay, let me do this. Hey everyone, my name is Nicole Johnson. Thanks for attending my session. Um, So a little bit about me. I'm a solutions architect with Chef, and today I'm going to be talking about how to incorporate security into your DevOps release process. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the release process itself, but I'm going to walk you guys through how you can actually start automating some of that security and compliance checking, and how you can do that in a programmatic way. Um, so do you all want to just go around really quickly and tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do?
We have enough people here. I guess we can share our video to and start. I can share mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have enough space for 6 people. So if everybody wants to enable their webcam,
Okay. All right.
hey.
So, um, do you need a workstation or are you participating?
No, I don't need a workstation because I have like 20 windows up right now,
Okay.
and as much as I want to keep up, I probably won't.
Okay.
I probably
All right.
won't.
So, as you all are introducing yourselves, I'm going to give everyone their workstations. Look in the chat for your workstation IP.
And Nicole, you
So,
haven't
do you want
shared
to?
the screen yet, right?
No, I
Okay.
haven't.
Okay. Just checking.
Yep. Yep. I attend. Do you want to start?
We can't hear you, Tune.
Okay.
Okay, there you go.
All right, thanks. So I'm Day, and I am a software tester, and so I have been working with women in Linux for I think since April, and so I'm looking to cross over into cybersecurity potentially, or in some other realm working with Linux.
Thank you. Anyone else? Is everyone on mute, or does everyone have their audio set up?
It looks like some people probably need to enable their audio.
Okay.
Hey, Linda.
Hello.
If you want to share a video, we have enough room for 6 people before Nicole gets started for intros.
No, I'm probably looking really wild right about now.
People are like, no. Okay.
Uh, you know what? I'm gonna let you have a quick chuckle and then I'm gonna go away.
Hey, Amy.
Hi, how's it going?
Amy, thanks.
Hi.
How are you? Can you tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. So I'm a software consultant at Adorable.io. I don't know if you're familiar with it at all, but I'm a new Rails developer, but my entire background has been in DevOps. I used to work at Puppet, and I also did DevOps at GoPro. Um, so, yeah, I'm here brushing up on some things that I've missed in the last year since going into the Rails world.
Okay, cool. So, are you familiar with Chef?
A little bit. I've mostly used Ansible and Puppet. Um,
Okay.
I've used a little bit of Chef, enough Chef to just kind of know my way around it and be able to talk about it, but I haven't like used it significantly.
Okay. Great. Thanks. All right. So we've got a bunch of folks on the line. Not sure if anyone else wants to introduce themselves. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and get started. All right. I will get started. All right. So give me 1 second.
Everybody, you guys can go off the video so Nicole has the floor and we can give her as much space as she needs. Awesome.
All right, can you all see that?
I don't see it. I just see you.
Can you see my
There you
screen,
go.
my presentation?
There you go. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, there you go. Got it. All right. For some reason, it's causing my computer to hang.
We still see your screen.
Do you? Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. So PowerPoint has decided to not want to show for me now. Let's see. There we go. All right. So really quickly, I'm going to talk a little bit about DevOps and how we're approaching security in DevOps. And I know that there's folks that have experience in different DevOps tool sets. So our approach to DevOps is our approach to security in DevOps is a little bit different than you would think. What we've done is taken the whole idea of infrastructure as code and applied that to compliance. So back early in, I guess, 2015 or no, early this year actually, Chef purchased a company called VolcanoSec out of Germany, and they were doing something very similar to what we were doing, except using code to define compliance tests. So similar to server spec. So if you're not familiar with server spec, essentially what it is it's a testing language that allows you to do integration testing against actual systems, right? So you're testing the assumptions around your infrastructure as code, and it's based in Ruby. So they're doing so inspec is very similar to server spec in a lot of ways, but you're able to apply metadata to it, so that those tests are meaningful and reportable. So I'm going to go a little bit over that. I'm also going to go into what inspec is, how to use it, and then we're going to get into some of the hands-on labs. So the whole idea of compliance as code is being able to continuously test for that compliance throughout the life cycle, throughout the release process, and throughout the life cycle of a piece of software or a piece of infrastructure, right? So if you're managing a piece of infrastructure and managing it with a DevOps tool set, you want to be able to automate the testing, right? So part of the challenge with that is when you have a release pipeline, so for those of you who aren't familiar with the whole DevOps process and the release process, is typically you have a pipeline. So that pipeline might be Jenkins, Bamboo. In this case, in this visual here, sorry about that. I guess I should make this a little bigger. So typically, the challenge with that, compliance and security doesn't get tested throughout the process. So you go through the whole release process, and everything works great, and maybe you break in union and you fix it. Everything is great, and you've moved through the process very quickly, right? But then you get to production, and compliance is like, whoa, 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 whoa. This is all wrong. This is not compliant. So it slows down the whole process. So in order for companies to operate at velocity, you have to incorporate compliance into that process. So the way that you do that is by making those compliance tests programmatic as well. So by making them programmatic, now you can automate them by building them into the entire process and testing that all the way through early and often, and even post-release, being able to make sure that those systems maintain compliance. So, any questions so far? Okay. All right. So, what is Inspect? So, it's an open source runtime framework. It's a rule language, and it allows you to do compliance, security, and policy testing in a programmatic way. So, it contains a collection of resources. So, for those of you who are familiar with any of the infrastructure as code tool sets, very similar in concept. So you have resources that you use to declare the state of how you want something configured. So those resources apply in the same way here. So I'll show you some of those shortly. You're able to examine nodes. You're able to run tests locally or remotely, which is going to be really important if you're operating this within the context of a release pipeline. And then you have a whole logging capability as well. So if you want to check it out, check out the GitHub repo. Like I said, it's open source. So if you want to contribute compliance profiles, it's open source. Ideas and contributions are welcome. So I'm going to give you an example, right? So super simple example, but say your organization for some reason is still on SSH version 1. So how do you understand which systems are still running SSH version 1, and then how do you move that change forward to be running SSH version 2, right? So the beginning of that is actually testing for that across a large number of systems. So how you would probably do that in most cases is write a script. That's cool. So once you write the script, how do you report on it? How do you make sure that the results that you're getting aren't the result of some other thing that may be skewing some misconfiguration, right? That may be skewing what you're actually getting as an output, right? So you can build conditions and all kinds of complexities into your scripts, but who's going to manage that? How many times have I walked into an IT department? They're like, oh, we've used a bunch of scripts to do everything. Like, okay, well, who maintains them? Like, and they all point at each other, and so that's not effective when it comes to scale and when it comes to being able to do things quickly. So what Inspect gives you the ability to do is take those kinds of things, take those configuration items, and put them in the context of a security test, right? So I mentioned to you that it's very similar to server spec. So essentially what you're doing is saying, okay, I've got this control that I want to test for. So, it's a CIS control, for example. So I declare the impact because my CISO wants to know what the impact of some of these vulnerabilities are, and some of these configuration items are, the title, and the description, right? So this also has to be something that auditors and non-IT and non-sysadmin folks can read, right? So if you hand them the output of a whole bunch of scripts, and unless you add into the script a way to print it out nice and neat and export it to someplace, which is a pain in the butt in and of itself, it's really hard to do that. So by allowing you to add this metadata, so like your description, your applicability, and then the rationale, so the details. So when you look at that CIS document, being able to say, here's the control that's in the CIS document, and then mapping it to the control that you're trying to test for in a programmatic way, right? So this is exactly what you're doing here. So if you notice, it's very readable. So I consider myself, the world's worst Rubyist, and that's totally fine because Chef is mostly easy when it comes to DSL. So if I look at this, not knowing any Ruby, I can say this file, the init sysconfig file, is content should match UMask 027, right? So pretty simple. Does that make sense? Does anyone have questions? Okay. Is this too fast, too slow? I mean, is this all, making sense? Useful? Are you guys still there? Can you hear me? It's good. Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, all right.
I think everybody's on mute listening intently. They're like, yes!
Okay, all right.
And in the chat,
Okay.
everybody's
All right.
kind of responding in the chat box if you want to take a look.
Oh, okay, all right, all right. Okay,
No,
yeah,
yeah, you can't. Yeah, you can't
yeah.
see the chat, but yeah, everybody's
No,
responding.
no.
You good to
Yeah,
go?
okay. All right, awesome.
We got your
Thank you.
back. We got you.
Okay, cool. Let me call it out if something doesn't make sense though. All right, so here's some examples, right? So you can create a check. So it could be something as simple as the SSH agent should be running, or it could be testing a target, right? So how do you test a target? How do you even test that your compliance test is valid? So you can execute this at the command level line locally or remotely, which is what we're going to be doing today. So inspect exec test, using a key at the target, at the SSH target for this EC2 instance. Same thing for Windows, right? So these tests also apply to Windows. Docker container. So you can really test any target, whether it's local or remote or Docker container, whatever. So any questions before we get into the hands-on stuff? Okay.
No,
All
no,
right.
not
So
really. The only one question
okay.
I just have is that am I connecting via SSH on this machine?
Yes. So SSH into your machine. The username is Chef and the
Oh,
password is Chef, all lowercase on both.
okay, thank you.
All right. So everyone all logged in?
Let me look and see. Let
All
me
right.
see what the results are saying here.
Okay.
Let's see what the streaks are saying. The streaks is watching. I see two yeses, and I'm gonna go with
Let me see
this.
if I can get a few more folks joined. All right. So the additional folks that joined, um, let's see, who else do we have? Is anyone, does anyone not have a workstation? I think I got everybody, right?
Nicole, I have a this is Linda. I have a workstation assigned,
Yes.
but I think I was late
Yes.
getting in, so I don't know where I'm supposed to go to log in.
Okay. Oh, okay. So it's just SSH. Do you have Windows or Mac or Linux?
Windows.
Okay. So do you have PuTTY on your system?
I do.
Okay. So go to PuTTY. You can just put in the IP address and the username and password is chef, all lowercase.
And what's the username that we're supposed to use?
Chef, all lowercase.
Okay.
All right. Everyone good? I have view of the chat now, so I can see. Um,
Username chef, password chef.
correct. Okay. All right. So in your SSH terminal, go ahead and type inspect. You should get a list of options. And so inspect, like any other command, has a whole bunch of help features, a bunch of flags that you can use. So what we're going to do is write our first test. So one of the things that you might want to do as you're sort of going through your CIS documents or whatever it may be, writing the tests is what are the details of my operating system. So if you type inspect detect, you'll get the details of your operating system. So the version on the workstations is slightly behind the one that I used to make these slides. So there's some new, even newer features in InSpec that are really cool, like SSL checking and stuff like that. But for now, I think the version that you guys have will get you through pretty much all of this. Um, so the next thing you can do is check the test. There's no test right yet, but if you were to write a control and say inspect check, you can actually check the validity of that test. So does it compile correctly? Are any errors? And in the newest version, you can actually create a whole scaffolding just using the inspect init command, which is now part of the inspect DSL as well. All right, so what you're going to do is open your favorite text editor. Mine is Vim, but whatever text editor you're comfortable with, and create ssh_spec.rb. So once you're in that text editor, ignore that, sorry, we're going to go ahead and write a control. So going back to that whole example of SSH, how would you do that, right? You might write a script, and here's what it would look like. So if you were to take this script and say, okay, the name of the control in CIS is SSHD11, the impact is 1. So this is what it would look like. So go ahead, and I'll give you guys a freebie on this one, but I'm going to make you work a little bit later. So so go ahead and copy this. So for those of you who aren't as familiar with Ruby, these indents, they're not mandatory, but they help with spacing, and they help with just readability of your code. So this is not actually a tab, it's 2 spaces.
Nicole, I think you have a question.
Yes.
Michael, you said, can you explain the impact? Are you mean the impact of the tabs, Michael? Or the indexes?
Oh, no. He's probably talking about the impact here. So when you're I guess writing these controls, so in this case the SSH control is not actually a CIS control. So it might be like an organizational control, right? So depending on the weight that it's giving, that's the impact that it would have. So you can go from impact 1 to 10, decimals in between. So it's really just the grading of how critical that item is. So that as you're reporting on it, you're like, because you'd likely have hundreds of these configuration. Okay, you got it. Yeah, so it just helps in terms of understanding, like, larger scale, compliance posture. All right, so I guess give me a few, I'm done's when you're done. And make sure you have your quotes in order. And these are spaces between the curly brackets and the should and the end of the parentheses.
I have a quick question. If I don't,
Sure.
can I put just, I guess this is just for purposes of the file and I guess viewing, but when you're given a description and you don't, and you have, what if I put the double quote on the same line as anymore? Is that going to be a problem?
It shouldn't be a problem.
Okay. It's just for purposes of viewing purposes. Okay.
Yeah. So the way that we typically write these, so Chef Compliance is an enterprise product, but the inspect language is an open source product. So there's a lot of these controls, especially the CIS, and I think there's some NIST. There's a whole bunch of them that are written by either us or a consulting team. So this is just how we've standardized on that. but I don't think that it's going to have an impact. Um, so there are examples in the inspec folder that you can actually pull from that are really helpful. The other thing that's helpful in terms of syntax is if I showed a few of you the server spec page the other day in terms of syntax and understanding like what some of these resources are and what they do. That server spec page is helpful as well. You can save it. All right, so how's everyone doing? Are most of you done? No problem, Pam.
Pam, if you want to right quit colon WQ if you open up in Vim. Oh, I think it's giving us, it says can't open file for writing. I think that's what that is.
Um,
On the systems.
yeah, maybe you need to use, I don't, you shouldn't need to use sudo because I just did this using these same exact, let's see.
If everybody's having problems, I will highlight and then copy and paste that. I mean, copy and just quit, and then go back to your terminal and type sudo there, and then paste it.
Yeah.
And it it didn't let me do it even then when I did that, Nicole.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Let me see what's my home. I wonder if I have to do it in temp.
You shouldn't. Are you guys using QBang or WQBang?
I did WQ exclamation point.
And it's not letting you save it. That is strange. Yeah, try sudo.
Yeah, I just tried sudo on the Vim, and it didn't let me do it. And it's in the path of your home directory ssh_spec controllers ssh2.rb. Emma said
I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah. My apologies here. This should be a little bit different. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm not sure. Do you want to share your screen? I'm not sure what's going on there.
Oh, so I just should put it under SSH spec RB.
Just
okay.
Yeah, so just create a .rb file.
Okay.
Yep.
That worked, and I did a sudo just in case.
Okay, great. Oh, excellent. Anyone else stuck on that? Okay, so once you've done that, go ahead and execute. My apologies, I have changed some things up there. So underscore spec RB. So go ahead and do an inspect exec, and what you should get is a failure because SSH isn't configured. So everyone get that to execute properly.
Yes, I did.
Okay, great. All right. So as you're reporting this, as you're testing this on individual systems, here's where it becomes important, right? So your content should CMP. So this CMP, you're basically using a matcher instead of a. You're basically using a matcher to understand to test for specific things in the text of a config file You might be using it to test for a certain condition, but typically you're using a matcher that's provided as part of the inspect language. So these things are built into the inspect language. So a lot of the things that I think it was Steve was talking about earlier this morning, and being able to automate some of this testing process of those SCAP profiles, this makes it a heck of a lot easier when you're trying to, put a change through or develop a piece of software, right? So here's an example of what this might look like, right? So this content. So whenever you see this colon before basically a verb or an operator in Ruby, it's basically executing it in memory. So it's saying it's content. So let me look at the content. It's holding that in memory and then saying it should contain 2, right? So when you run that, it's going to say, it should say what the results were, which is what you guys got. So what's the difference? Matchers are testing for an expected value. So whereas regular expressions are declaring explicitly. So a little bit of an advantage when it comes to working with dynamic data, because you can actually break into pure Ruby as part of some of these inspect tests, where you're building in logic and you don't want to write the same test over and over again for slightly different operating systems and platforms. So you might write a test that says, if you run to this, if CentOS this, if Debian this, so you can add conditions and build logic into some of these tests as well. So another example, what does this look like on Windows? So the description, its protocol should be 2. So the test is the same, but the actual execution and the syntax of the test is slightly different. Adding the impact. So there's a ton of resources available. These are just some of the examples, and like I said, we're adding additional resources that you can test against. So this list, as we iterate on the language, the list of resources that you can use to test is ever growing. So examples, Etsy group, describe a host. You can test for ports being reachable. You can describe a MySQL configuration file, a MySQL session, usernames, passwords, describe a registry key. So any questions?
Not for me. I think we just got someone new that just joined. He may need a machine, Nicole.
Okay.
Is Mac.
Okay. Hey, Mac. Let's see. No one has workstation 11, right?
I don't.
Okay. I think you were the last one to join. So there's your IP. Just go ahead and, oh, okay. All right. Well, no worries. It's there if you want it. The username and password is Chef. You can just SSH into it if you want to. All right. So now I'm going to go into a more in-depth example of an actual CIS benchmark. All right. So, So actually writing a test for a CIS benchmark can prove to be a little challenging. So when we first released Inspect, Chef Engineering came to us and said, hey, we know that some of your customers will use this, so why don't you go ahead and write some of these benchmarks? So that was really awesome learning experience for me. So, just as an example here, so creating a separate partition for TMP, right? I think that was a topic of conversation the other day for something that you guys are working on. So how do you test for this? So this is very basic configuration item, but actually programmatically testing for it can be challenging if you're doing it manually, because then you have to log in and make sure TMP is mounted. So what you've got here, similar to the example that we had before, is you're creating a separate partition, right? So you've got your title, you've got your description, your impact. So you've also, you can add as much as you need into the description. Typically this is sufficient for a description when it comes to reporting. But the actual execution of it, that's always called out, well, not always called out, but typically called out in the CIS docs. So you can take this and run it against a bunch of systems, but again, how do you report on that? So here's where you say, describe the mounted TMP directory. It should be mounted, right? So if it's not mounted, then you're going to failure. So and then once you're done writing the test, use inspect exec to control. So go ahead and make sure you're in your home directory. Go ahead and create another Ruby file called CIS CentOS6. And I'm going to let you go ahead and write that file. So here, let me do this. I want to give you the example without. All right, so I'm going to hide this momentarily. So I'm going to let you all take a stab at that. So if you go to the inspect repo, github.com/chef/inspect, there are some examples there. So I know some of you are Linux sysadmins, some of you are not. If not, that's okay. There's some examples in that inspect examples folder. So you have something to work off of. So let's see.
In this file, in this folder on GitHub, is it under examples?
Yes. Yeah. So I'm pulling it up for you all right now. I think go to meeting eats up my CPU. That's why. Trouble here. Yeah. So if we go to examples and profile. So the other thing that's worth noting too is, like I mentioned, it's an open source testing language. So you don't have to use it with Chef. As much as I'd like you to, you don't have to use it with Chef. You can actually use this in addition to other DevOps tools. So if you go in the profile folder and controls, here are some examples here. So I think the best one is probably this example right here. So similar, but not quite, oops, sorry. Not quite exactly the same. But you can get a sense for what's supposed to be in there. So I'm going to throw this to one side of the page. There we go. And I'm going to throw this to the other side of the page. There we go. So you're testing to make sure that the temp directory is mounted. So it looks like we're running a little short on time. How are we ending right at 11:45, or do you all want to conclude at 12?
You have time. You have time to about 11:55 because we break for lunch.
Okay.
So you have time for lunch.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay. So how's everyone doing? Any questions?
I'm not. I'm not gonna say I don't have any questions. I've been trying to make sure everybody's okay and all that, so I can't say yes or no for myself.
Okay. All right. No worries. All right. So
Nicole,
I
we'll be
think
able to
you
get
all.
your presentation, right?
Yes. All right.
You made me snort.
All right. All right. So here's what it should look like. And anybody get that, or were you close?
I
So for
know.
those of you who are familiar with scripting languages, okay, that's okay because I mean it was your first try. I remember looking at the stigs and saying, how the heck am I supposed to write this? And it takes a minute to get a hang of, right? But once you start doing it, it makes a whole lot of sense. So once you've done that, go ahead and run inspect exec against that. Oops. So does anyone still need this? Need the text?
I don't.
Okay. All right. I'll assume that most of you all are done. So when you run inspect exec against that file, so that should be your CIS. You should get this failure. Everyone get that? Did anyone have any issues or errors? No? Okay. All right. So now I'm going to actually jump into a demo myself because I think we're running a little short on time, and I want to make sure that you all are able to uh, get in some questions. So right. Okay. Can everyone see my screen still? Can you see this like command line?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay, great. All right, so let's do this. I'm going to jump into inspect shell really quickly. So inspect shell is actually an interactive way to actually interrogate the system and its attributes. So if I inspect shell, I go to and I say um, help, it's going to give me available commands, so forth. So what OS I'm running on, so that's useful. Um, so if I want to find out what resources are available, I can say help resources. Oops. So these are all the resources that are available. I know that's not the nicest, but it's actually been noted as of yesterday by the writer of Inspect. So if I want to interrogate a specific resource, I can say help. We'll use SSH config as an example, right? So now I get information about the resource. So as you're writing these and testing resources and how to actually interrogate a system and how to test compliance of a particular configuration item, you can dive into the inspect shell and test some of those things. So the other thing that I want to test here is, let's see. Let's see. So I just started up. No. Okay. We're not going to have enough time for that. So I'm going to inspect shell. Um, and we'll interrogate a few more items. So if I say port, right? So there's a bunch of different attributes about ports that I might want to interrogate. So if I say help port, here's how I would test for a port that should be listening or should not be listening, or a range of ports that should or should not be listening, right? Um, the other thing that we can do is test a specific port. So if I say port 80, um, is it listening? Get an answer. Um, Anyone have questions on this?
No, not for me.
No. Okay.
I know what you're doing.
Okay. So, all right. Cool. So if this is all making sense, I'll show you one more that's particularly interesting and or useful. If I interrogate the Etsy group entries, I can see all the groups. I can do the same thing with I have to exit with pass password. Uh, so I can interrogate the system for what users, what groups. So there's, you can interrogate all of those resources, and you can write your own resources if you want to. So I think that's a good way to get started. And start thinking about how you currently test for compliance and where you start applying this in bits and pieces, because eventually it'll start catching on. Even if it's in terms of just testing a local system before you implement a change in production, right? So just some food for thought there. Does anyone have questions before we wrap up?
No, I think everybody was concerned if they was going to have the slides later on, but keep in mind we recorded
Yes.
this session as well, and
Mm-hmm.
Nicole is a part of the community, so it's nothing for us to have an extended session. This is not going to be our last conference, so I want you guys to keep that in mind. If you felt like you were behind and you're missing out, you're not. We are going to have more extended talks on Chef and Puppet. We're actually probably going to do like an automation session. It's probably going to be like an automation conference. Just put that out there, so be on the lookout. And it's going to be Puppet, Chef, and Ansible all in one session. I want you guys to be aware of that. So be on the lookout for that. And Nicole's probably going to do the Chef. I'll probably do Puppet or Ansible. I hadn't decided yet. And then we're going to make that one big section. So if you got questions, now's the time to ask. You can meet her in her booth as well too. And also, if you followed along just fine, hey, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you all. If all want a like the rest of the demo, like with the Docker container and all of that, I'd be happy to do it later or another day. There's a heck of a lot more. This is just barely scratching the surface. So feel free to hit me up with questions in the Slack team. I'm almost always around. So thank you all. Appreciate you participating, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We want everybody to hang on instead of going logging out and going somewhere else. We just want to give you what's going to be going on next. Tam, you have your cam on?
No, I can turn it on.
Please do.
Hello.
Hey everybody. How's everybody enjoying the conference so far?
Great.
Great. All right.
I,
Yep, I'm enjoying it.
I know I'm hungry.
Um I am I am starved.
Let me back up
Mm.
off the camera here.
I am
I am
starved. You went
hungry.
back up too. I need to get my shirt in the shot.
Yeah.
So is everybody navigating around okay? Have you guys went to Puppet? Talked to any speakers?
Yeah, I talked
Yeah.
to Steve.
Okay.
Okay.
Haven't gone to Puppet yet. I was,
Oh, go head over there to Puppet now. They're waiting on you guys. I've been trying to send people throughout everything. They're looking for they got information on recruiters and so forth and so on. So I want you guys to get
Your
information.
audio is terrible. So is mine. It's terrible. I wonder what's going on. Yeah, it's an echo. Let's see. We can't hear you.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, I think it's something what's going on with the network there. All right, yeah. So no, we want you guys to hit up Puppet while you can. Talk to them about whatever jobs or recruiting questions that you normally can't ask recruiters. Just ask questions like whatever you thought you couldn't ask, ask. I told them to be no holds bar. I told them to make sure that they don't hold back anything. So you don't hold back anything. If you're just curious, like, hey, just ask. Look at their jobs. Talk to them like, hey, when I'm in an interview and this happens, what's going on? Ask those questions because that's what we got them there for, so that you can ask those questions. So go over there, head over there to them and ask them what you can while they're still there. Because that's why we reached out to them for that. And then also they'll be back again on the 25th because we have a puppet session on the 25th where they're going to be there doing they're going to be there doing the technical recruiters are going to be there, some tech folks, some hiring managers and everything. So again, we're going to do this on the 25th again, but now while you can and you have the recruiters in right here at the palm of your hands, literally, uh, go ask those questions and be one with that. And then we're gonna break after this. We're going to lunch. We'll resume back at 1 o'clock. Be back here at 1 o'clock sharps so that we can get going on the next one on the next round. And we'll see you then.
Oh, and so you guys make sure that you check out. We have Petra coming up and she's doing OpenStack. Donnie Hamlet is going to be doing Docker. We have a Gameverse panel which I'm really excited for, and then we have MongoDB coming up. So stay tuned. Go browse around and get something to eat. If we are not directly in the Women in Linux booth right after that, we need a quick break for a quick bite. So thank you.
I'm I'm gonna head over there. I'm gonna head over there right quick if somebody got questions, and I'll be there for about 5 minutes, and then we'll go and get something to eat. So see you in the Women in Linux booth.